Well, hello there. Managed to bag yourself a PS5 in 2022? Here's how to set it up. Welcome back to another PS5 tips and tricks video. By the end of this video, you'll know everything you need to know for a proper PS5 setup in 2022. If you're new here, you should subscribe because I make PS5 console tips videos just like this every single week. Now let's get into it. I'm sure you're gushing with excitement about your recent purchase of a PS5 and you're dying to plug it in and get going. So first, taking it out of the box, along with all the accessories that come with it. Now first off, the PS5 stand. You are going to want to use a stand. The PS5 is tall, thin and heavy, and it therefore has a high centre of gravity. You can set it in the horizontal or vertical position using the stand, just like so. I personally would recommend the vertical position, as I think it can help with cooling, but the difference is minimal. Now the next issue is where to place your PS5. Do not put your PS5 in an enclosed space. If you're using a TV stand, it must have an open back at the very least, or your PS5 will essentially be sat in a hot box. Ideally, make sure there's a few inches of space either side for maximum airflow if you're in the vertical position, or at least on one side in the horizontal. Since the back grates are downward facing, it would be a good idea to have it elevated so the air can circulate well behind the PS5 and not back onto itself, making it hot. Now on to the setup. I won't insult your intelligence by telling you how to plug in a power lead and HDMI. However, it is a good idea to use cable ties, or in my case, my girlfriend's unused hairbands, to tidy your cables. Also, here's a diagram of all the ports the PS5 has. You can use these extra ports, USBs, on various accessories. On another side note, if you bought the Pulse 3D headset or another headset with a Bluetooth dongle, then plug it in the front and not the back, or the signal will drop out. Next up, how to transfer your PS4 games and save files. There are at least 3 ways you can transfer your PS4 games and saves over to your PS5. You can put them on a hard drive and move them over like that. You can plug in your PS4 into your PS5 and transfer that way. Lastly, you can manually install the games on your PS5 from the discs, if you have the disc edition that is, and then download your game saves from the PS Cloud service to the PlayStation. And that's how I did it, since I don't want all my PS4 games on my PS5, and this way allows you to pick and choose what you put on there as opposed to just transferring everything. Now, ways to expand your PS5 storage. You will definitely want to expand your PS5 storage. Games are getting bigger and bigger, not to mention the space that apps and media take up. The 667 gigabytes that you'll get with the SSD are eaten up in no time, so let's look at some expansion options. First off, use a hard disk drive or a HDD to store apps and temporarily store PS5 games instead of deleting them. You can also move media to a HDD that hasn't been converted to mass storage. And second, an SSD expansion. The PS5 has an NVMe M.2 SSD expansion slot. I've made a video for the top 6 compatible SSDs already, and another video for the installation guide. Both of those are in the cards on the top right hand corner now, you can check those out if you want to. If you intend to get an SSD, and you absolutely should, expand the memory. I have a 1TB MP600 Corsair Pro, and since I've installed it over 6 months ago, I haven't needed to delete a single game. Next up, TVs for the PS5. So I've already made a video on the top 10 TVs for the PS5, which is in the right hand corner now if you want to have a look. Basically, get a good TV with HDR or high dynamic range, and OLED is the best if you can afford it. The PS5 is capable of 120 frames per second, which is very nice. And if you want that, you want to get a TV that has a 120Hz refresh rate. Make sure that you use the cable that comes with the PS5, as this 2.1 cable, which is capable of transmitting 120Hz to the TV. If you have such a TV, make sure you plug the HDMI into the correct port, as only 1 or 2 out of 4 will be HDMI 2.1, and they will be labelled. If, like me, you don't have one that supports 120Hz, I have a Sony XH95 and it is very good. Plug it into the HDMI port named EARC, which stands for Enhanced Audio Return Channel, for the best results. And if you're wondering if 120 frames per second is worth it, I am planning a future video which you should subscribe to see. However, right now, here is a list of games that support 120 frames per second. If you don't play many of them, it's probably not worth it for now, but bear in mind that more games will be added, and this list was only 5 games long on launch this time last year. Next up, essential settings. Now you're ready to turn your console on, make sure the TV is set to the right port before you launch the console, as there's a special screen for the first launch that you'll never see again unless you do a factory reset. So now we're on to the home page. Insert your first game, whatever it may be, so it gets installing and download the update while we tinker around with some other settings. Right, what we're going to do, go to settings. First off, in accessibility, you can change text size, bold text, things like that. If you struggle to see, that's a good one. Next up, we are going to go to system. Here, go to HDMI, make sure all of these are enabled. This is going to allow you to the TV to turn on when you turn the PlayStation on, and or turn off the TV by only pressing the home remote, which also turns off the PlayStation. You can go down to remote play and set up a remote play device, which I'm using to record this video. And you can set what the PS5 can do in rest mode. I would recommend leaving it connected to the internet and having the USB ports enabled as well. Next up, go to storage. Here you can format any hard drives you've installed, so either USB extended storage, you can format it to be a mass storage, or you can leave it as essentially a giant USB stick. I have an M.2 SSD installed that I mentioned earlier, and you can set the download location and install location to the SSD, or you can set it to the console storage. You can manage your games, app, and media from here. You can delete it, move it, things like that. Next up, we're going to go to sound. Here you can set the microphone to be on mute or on by default, the one that's on the DualSense controller this is. You can also set the TV speaker or game speaker 3D audio, and you can set the audio 3D for the Jules, for the Pulse 3D headset. Next up, if you go to accessories, you can play with these controller settings. If you turn these down, the battery life will last longer, but I have two controllers and I like the immersiveness they bring, so I leave them on full. You can set up media remote, camera, or anything like that if you've got those as extras with the PlayStation. Now go to save data / app settings. From here you can download your PS4 game saves from the cloud. You can set these game presets, so instead of when you put every game in, instead of manually setting the difficulty, subtitles, resolution, or performance mode, you can preset all of these. So for every single game that you play, after you preset, you won't have to mess about. These will be the default settings. From here you can also block spoilers from your friends if you have those, unlike me, and you can manage your followed games that come up on the card system. I'm going to go to notifications. Here all you want to do is make sure that wishlist updates are turned on, and we'll show you at all times. We'll come onto that in a bit. And lastly, captures and broadcasts. So from here you can manage what the create button does. For me as a video creator, I have it set to create videos. When I double tap it, screenshots for a single tap. If you create also, or if you just like to capture your moments, that's good for you. You can also set the auto captures for trophies. So by default it will take a screenshot and a 15-second clip. You can set it to take no clip or a 30-second clip. Adjust these depending on how much memory you have or how much memory you want to save. These do eat up memory if you go for the 15 to 30-second clip, so just bear that in mind. And that is going to do it for the settings. Hopefully your game is ready to go, but we're not quite done yet. Next up, we are going to check if there are any free PS5 upgrades for your existing PS4 games. Now some of them you have to pay for, some of them are free. So for example, I have No Man's Sky on PS4. An icon will come up when you install it that there is a free PS5 upgrade available, and then you just click on that and it will auto install. Next up, we have the PS5 wishlist. So literally any game that you might want, so you can go onto the game and you can put it on wishlist. And what that's going to do, it's going to add it to your wishlist. But when the game goes on offer, obviously this one isn't going to go on offer for a while. When it does go on offer, you will get a notification that it's gone on offer and it's cheaper, and you can have a little look. So this is going to be a good one for digital edition owners. It's a good way to get games cheaper. A couple of shortcuts are going to be really useful. While you're on the home screen, if you just press triangle, you will jump from any position to the search icon, and there you go. How to maintain your new PS5. As I mentioned before, you can make sure your PS5 isn't somewhere that it can overheat. And I've also got a cleaning video which you can see in the top right hand corner now for if and when it gets dirty, which it will. I've also got a few recommendations of accessories. So first one is the Pulse 3D headset. The next I would recommend is the hard drives that I mentioned before, the HDD and definitely an NVMe SSD expansion. That will help you massively in the long run. And last but not least, get yourself a second DualSense controller. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like as it helps other new PS5 owners find the video. Comment down below what you think of your PS5. Are you enjoying it? Did you get disc? Did you get digital? And last but not least, click the icon on the left to see another video picked just for you by the YouTube algorithm, and I will see you in the next one.